YouTube. I've been using YouTube videos to build all kinds of DIY projects over the last 10 years or so, and I thought it was time for me to make one of my own as an homage to YouTube, for nothing else. I'm not even going to tell you my name because you don't care. And I'm not going to tell you to click anything or like anything because I'm not going to post any more videos. But this is what I am going to show you to do. I built an acoustic hybrid electric guitar out of an $89 online Telecaster copy in the honor of the Fender acoustasonic guitar models that are out there that sell for about $2,000, and I built this one for under $200. So if you're interested, I hope you watch, I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you have as much fun building one of these as I did. Hi there. I thought that it would be fun to try and build one incorporating an acoustic pickup with an electric pickup and then something in between, kind of following the same electronics on a Telecaster with a 3-way switch instead of a 5-way switch. So I'm gonna give it a shot. I found this online, a Glary, which they sell a ton of guitars at about $100. And this was a $89 Telecaster replica that, I mean, it's a $100 guitar. It doesn't play much better than that. The electronics are kind of meh. The tuning gears aren't great. The neck is, I think, serviceable and workable. I like it because the finish on the body is actually quite nice, and there are no cutouts on the back part of the body. So as I decide to try and route this out and make it a hollow body guitar, I should have plenty to work with. I got myself a spruce soundboard from StewMac. This was their kind of lowest grade book matched spruce. So there's 2 pieces of spruce in here. That'll be book matched for the top. About $12 is what that cost. An acoustic bridge with bridge pieces, pins and all that. I think everything seemed to be about $12. I thought I would complicate things a little bit more by using a hot rail pickup, or a knockoff hot rail pickup, which is a humbucker pickup that is in the geographical space of a single coil. This on Amazon was about $12, and I'll go over some of the wiring with that as well because that's half the fun. And I also got an acoustic, just standard acoustic piezo pickup that's going to go underneath the soundboard, not underneath the bridge, but under the soundboard. And that was a simple, this was like $20, maybe the most expensive thing I got. So now that I got the guitar all taken apart, I can see some details about the original build. First of all, looks like the bridge was drilled twice, and there's a broken off screw in there too, right there. I'm gonna have to be careful when I route out the body cavity for that. I'm gonna rig up a jig with my Dremel tools, a router, and create a line here all the way around the periphery that preserves the edge of the butterscotch finish for the inlay for the spruce top to go on top of that. So my efforts to try and use my own jig in a handheld Dremel router were kind of a disaster. Kind of shook all over the place, and I just couldn't get any control on it. And you can see I kind of had a little trial and error with that. So I'm deciding to go another route. I'm going to actually use a table router with a spindle as a guide. So I actually went to the architectural salvage yard and bought this old laminated countertop and built it as a router, mounting my router underneath, as you can see, and with a spindle made from some skateboard bearings and a screw down the middle of it mounted into the board, with about 1/4 of an inch difference between the spindle and the router blade. The idea is that I'll be able to take the top of the guitar, lay it on its top, and run it around the contours of the guitar and create the channel in the top of the guitar that will create the inlay for the spruce top. Okay, that was a little bit stressful, but I'm really happy the way this turned out. I had to stop right on the edge of next to the neck here because the diameter of the ball bearing from the skateboard ball bearing was fitting right in there, and I couldn't roll past that little edge. So I'm gonna have to clean that up with the router by hand, but I'm really pleased at how clean the cut went all the way around the top. And that's gonna create a nice 1/2 inch shelf to glue the spruce top onto, create that nice inlay and maintaining the butterscotch finish all the way around the edge, and it looks nice and clean. Now I just get to pull out the router from the router table, and we'll plunge out and we'll route out the entire inside of it to make it hollow. So here's my body all prepped, and I gotta admit, it came out a lot better than I thought it would. We did preserve the back of the finish really nicely. I will end up cutting a control panel for the electronics at some point, but I'm gonna hold off on that until I know exactly where I'm putting them. So the next step is now to take my spruce top and go through the process of book matching the spruce top together and trying to get it prepared and to fit within those contours. So the process of getting the two pieces of spruce to match perfectly flat together was a little bit more intense than I thought it would be, and it took a lot of trial and error. This is a shooting board, which is just a couple of pieces of plywood glued together to provide a guide for a block plane, and there's lots of YouTube videos on how to do this, but it seems like every time I thought I had it flat, there would always be a little spot that I could still see light through, and I kept redoing it and then made it worse and then made it better, made it worse and made it better. But when it was all said and done, I was able to get two pieces together. I then threw down some parchment paper and glued the two edges with some straight clamps with just very light pressure. Did not take a lot of pressure at all. And even though I had some difficulty, I'm really pleased with how it turned out. So to scribe the shape of the body template for the spruce top, I used cardboard paper and a pencil, and then very carefully tried to get it as tight into the grooves of the body as possible so that when I transferred that to the spruce top, I would have as small of a gap to repair in the end as possible. Here I just marked the center lines on the paper and matched those center lines with the seam in between the two spruce tops. Then it's on to the bandsaw. So after cutting out the spruce top on the bandsaw and with quite a bit of hand sanding to try and get it to fit, I did manage to get the spruce top to fit pretty darn well and kind of tight in the recesses. I did leave a little tab on the neck so I can pull this on and off. And there you have it. The joint looks really rather nice. And I think I do have to do some repair here where I messed up with the router in the first place, but I think any gap that's left over between the top and the edge will fill in nicely when I just polyurethane it. So now when I'm looking at my layout for the guitar, I'm going to have about a 2-inch sound hole that's going to be backed up by a block of walnut that I got from Home Depot and routed down deep and to make it look like that sound port that's on the Fender Acoustasonic. And I've got my bridge from Amazon, and I did find some wood, oops, well, I've got 2 of them, wood guitar knobs. The other one went down underneath the table here. And with a switch will be mounted in the back. So to make the sound port that's going to back up the sound hole, I am going to just take my 2-inch hole saw, cut a hole in this block of walnut with a little bit of space around the edges, and then trim up the edges. So essentially I'm going to be left with a ring of walnut that will encircle the sound hole. Then once I glue that wood to the back of it, I'll use a round over bit with a router and round over the edges. So there'll be a nice blending, kind of funneling from the spruce top down into the deep part of the sound port with the walnut backing it. So there's my little ring of walnut that I made, cutting with a hole saw and then just trimming off the edges. I'll probably smooth it out with a sander later on. So now I've got my ring of walnut glued in around my sound hole, and I've also still got this tab that I left on the top of the neck to give it a handle, which I really didn't need. But now I'm going to go back with my router and I'm going to clean up with a flushing bit and the neck pocket in here, this tab area, and then I'm really excited about this part. I'm going to round over the top of the sound hole so that you see a little bit of that walnut peeking through, and it makes like a rosette pattern. So as I was finishing up my routing, my neighbor came by. It is St. Patrick's Day today, and he brought me a Guinness. He actually brought me 2 Guinnesses. So this came out looking really pretty cool. There's the quasi rosette with the round over bit, although it needs quite a bit of sanding to get the burn marks out and a couple of the gouges from the router, but I'm really pleased with that, and I think it's gonna look really nice once it's cleaned up. So here's a quick update. I've done some basic woodworking after I got my bridge glued in to the top pretty well. I went ahead and mapped out the sights for the control knobs and the 3-way selector switch here in the back. I also cut out the space for the pickup, and everything's looking really good. Just a couple of steps left to go, really. I need to build or map out and cut out panel to access the electronics underneath the guitar. I'm going to do that next.
Okay, so here's where I'm at right now. I did manage to make a nice access port in the back for my electronics. I found I have some old pickguard material that I cut out and made the nice inlaid access point for that. The nifty part about this construction that I figured out is now, before I glue in the spruce top, I can literally put all the electronics in the spruce top just like you're wiring up a pickguard for a Stratocaster or something, and install it all on block like a loaded pickguard. So I went ahead and installed my electronics in the back of the pickguard with the pickup, the switch, and the 2 pots, the push-pull pot and the volume position. My piezo pickup, and that's going to get glued behind the bridge plate here, about in line with a low E position.
So my attempt to install a push-pull pot for a coil tap, there was something a little bit wonky with my wiring design. So I ended up bagging the push-pull pot, and I'm just going to go with a simple 2 pickup split three-way switch design. And I found a simpler, easier wiring diagram on guitarelectronics.com. Really awesome website. I've done a lot of guitars with their stuff. I've got all the electronics attached. So just to test it out with the 3-way switch all the way in the back, I've got my electric pickup that's working, but you don't hear any of the piezo pickup. In the middle position, I've got the piezo pickup and the electrical pickup. And then in the front position, I've got piezo pickup and no electric position. So I think we're gonna stick with that for now. I could always go back and rewire it with the push-pull pot. I could even add a piezo pickup to the bridge. There's all kinds of things I could do to adjust the wiring at a later date. But at this point, I want to get the guitar finished and just see how it sounds. I think it's time to glue up the body and see how it goes. So after gluing up the body, I kind of got so excited about finishing the guitar that I just bolted the neck on and put the rest of it together, and I forgot to videotape it, but there wasn't much to see there. A couple of things that I did do is I put a thin layer of wood filler around the edges of the guitar where there's a little tiny gap, and I gotta say, with natural wood filler, it looks pretty darn good. It's even really hard to say. You gotta be really up close to see something. I did splice in a couple of pieces of varnished finish from the chips, wood chips that I had from the other woodworking to try and cover up that spot, which looks okay. I might need to redo that sometime in the future. The interesting thing about the guitar is it's really lightweight. In fact, it weighed in under 4 pounds, which is about half the weight of my standard Telecaster, which is that green guy over there with the Bigsby tremolo on it. Anyway, there she is, and in a second I'll plug it in and let you hear how it sounds. Okay, so I'm just going to cycle through the tone of the guitar with the 3 pickup settings. First being the full acoustic setting with the piezo soundboard pickup. Then the second position setting, which is the combination of the electric pickup and the piezo pickup. And then the third setting will be the electric pickup only. And I'm playing this through a Fender Deluxe, Hot Rod Deluxe tube amp on the clean channel with nothing else on it. It's perfectly clean, no reverb or anything. So here is the acoustic sound. Not bad. Here's the combo position in the second. Honestly, still sounds pretty acoustic-y, just with a little bit more warmth, and it's a little bit of a hotter signal. Now, the electric pickup with a little bit of buzz. Functional sounds. Throwing a little distortion. Got an electric guitar sound. So it's a pretty functional guitar for $200 that can kind of mimic what the Acoustasonic does although it doesn't carry all of the onboard electronics to model the vintage acoustic guitars. But I gotta tell you, I'm really happy with it. Thanks for watching. Take your time, go out and get a Glary guitar. If you got some tools and a little bit of time, you have a lot of fun building with this. Oh, by the way, electric guitar strings are on this. I had a hard time figuring out what strings to put on it, but since I kind of play more of an electric style and was hoping to have just a passable acoustic sound, I went with the electric guitar strings. Anyway, like I said at the beginning of the video, click like if you want. I don't really care. If you have questions, I guess I'll try and answer them. And I hope you have fun. Thanks. Bye.